Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva
and this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
and Bliss.
This is a new list, but also a very old list. It's one of the first lists that we ever did, and it's so old that we took it down off
Mm-hmm.
of the podcast
Ancient.
rotation because, yeah, we were like, it was when we were figuring out what we were doing. The podcasts were like 3 hours long. We did 10 cases. It was nutty. So
Yeah.
we're redoing this one, giving the cases a little bit more of a deep dive as we are now known to do. And this is unexplained disappearances, mysterious disappearances.
One of my absolute favorite topics. I love the show Disappeared on Investigation Discovery. There's a great new season out for it right now. And I am obsessed with people who vanished into thin air and there's no answers. And I know it frustrates you, but I love it.
It frustrates me to no end. It's the type of thing where I desperately want there to be closure.
Yeah.
And I really, the thing for me is I feel like more than most cases, they don't ever get solved. Like if it's a murder, then there's a body, there is some evidence, there's something that's propelling the case forward. In instances like this, where the people just vanish into thin air, it's very, very hard to convince myself that it'll ever get solved. And I really doubt that any of these will. So,
Yeah.
but according to some people on the internet, the one that I'm going to talk about is already solved, and we'll get into
It's a
that. But
very Halloween topic to me. It's very spooky. It haunts me. It keeps
it's
me up at
very
night.
spooky.
Very spooky.
Yeah, it's very, very spooky. Speaking of haunting and spooky, I just had to turn off. I've watched 1 hour of this movie called Last Night in Soho.
Oh, it's a great movie.
I haven't. You've watched it?
Yeah, it's awesome. I loved
Of
it.
course you have.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so good so far. I
Yeah.
was like, God, I'm gonna finish this tonight, maybe. I have
It's
to edit
great.
this podcast, but yeah, it's really fucking
I
cool.
enjoyed
And
it.
like, yeah, like I just saw like a preview for it and I was like, oh, 60s London, and it looks like they did it
Mm-hmm.
well. Like so far it's really fucking good. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it. That makes me feel even
I
better.
also
Because
watched it
sometimes
way late and I was like telling everyone about it and they're like, yeah, we saw that. And, and I was
I
like,
didn't
yeah,
even know it existed,
it's really
and that's
good.
how out of it I am. I'm glad because sometimes movies can like start really great and then like suck at the end. But the
No,
fact that
it's
you're
really good.
saying you liked it, like,
And
okay, good,
everyone was
good.
like, oh, it's love it or you hate it. And I'm like, well, who hates it? It was great. So
Yeah, so far so good, man. I'm really enjoying it.
yeah,
And it's creepy and weird and haunting and good. Um,
great.
anyway, okay, so I guess we should just get into it. Is there anything
Yeah.
else we want to talk about?
I was gonna say I'm really pumped on that new Exorcist movie. At first I was like, no, I hate remakes or prequels or sequels, but then I saw a couple trailers and I was like, okay, that looks really okay.
Oh, I haven't seen any trailers. The
I'm really
picture's
stoked.
scary as
The
hell.
the
Like,
the trailer like legitimately scared me a little bit. So like I'm
ooh,
excited
okay.
because the original Exorcist is like probably my favorite. Well, other than Lord of the Rings, it's my favorite movie of all time. Like I love that movie so much. It's my favorite horror movie.
It's a really
Period.
good movie.
Oh, so
It's
good,
a really good movie.
so good.
Yeah, it's really good. I had friends that worked for Linda Blair at her
Mm,
dog rescue. Yeah,
nice.
I'm just gonna leave it there.
Okay.
Uh, I'm glad she rescues dogs. Good on her.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting into the cases,
You
I'm
start.
gonna talk about one,
Yes.
my very favorite. As soon as you said this, I was like, well, I know what I'm doing. This is the case of Amy Lynn Bradley.
Great.
Now, this case has bothered me and
Hmm.
haunted me since I first heard about it. Um, and I think the ending here might surprise you a little bit considering how much I've been into the mystery surrounding this case. But
Yeah.
I won't say any more. I'll just get into it. So, Amy Lynn Bradley was born in May 1974 in Petersburg, Virginia. And she had a brother. Her parents were Ron and Iva, and her brother was Ron Jr., but he went by Brad. So we've got Brad Bradley here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, quite a
Okay.
choice.
Yes.
And she uh went to school at Longwood University. She got a degree in physical education and was just starting a new job at a computer consulting firm after she graduated. This was in 1998. So, March of 98, she's graduated school, she's starting a new job, and her family decides they want to go on a cruise. Now they're going on a cruise on Royal Caribbean, and they're taking this cruise on a boat called the Rhapsody of the Seas. And now the Rhapsody of the Seas is still out and cruising around to this day.
Ooh,
Um,
spooky.
it was a hmm it was a brand new boat as of 1997. So it only been around maybe about a year by the time, the family decides to go on this cruise. And it's a big ass fucking ship. Like now it's got like a casino, multiple restaurants, nightclubs, and back then it had a lot of that same stuff, including most definitely the nightclubs. So Amy is a little like hesitant to go. She'd actually just adopted a dog like the day before she left on this cruise, but the adoption place was like, "We'll hold the dog until you get back next Saturday. You can come pick her up." But she was very much in the middle of a lot of life things,
Yeah,
starting a new job,
a lot
getting
going
a new
on.
dog, like a lot happening. Now, at this time in 1998, she's 23 years old, going to be turning 24 in May. But her family convinces her to go, and she's like, all right, fuck it, I'm going to go, whatever. So they all board the ship on March 21st, and this ship is going towards Curacao. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a Dutch Caribbean island under the Kingdom of the
I
Netherlands.
know.
And I know you know.
I do.
So something really interesting though, people cruise ships, like fuck a cruise ship, okay? Like I would
Hmm.
never, I will never. If
Really?
if if the whole weird like COVID thing where people like couldn't
Right.
get off the boat for like a year and a half or
That
some
was
crazy
that
shit,
was bad
it wasn't that long. It wasn't that long, but people were like literally stuck
stuff.
on a
Yeah.
fucking boat for like months while everybody like had to get through COVID. Um, Food poisoning happens all the time. Like people have died. Uh, and about something like 20 people go missing from cruise ships every year. I don't know
Oh
if you
my
know that.
God. We did a cruise
hmm
ship list entirely of like murdered and missing on cruise ships.
Yeah, because there's enough that you
Boats.
can do that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, I don't know if a lot of Americans know this. The boats are not governed by American law.
Right.
As soon as you
International
get
waters. Yeah.
yes, as soon as you get into international waters, there's a couple of things. So since this disappearance and since some other things have happened, United States has come forward and kind of created laws that these companies have had to agree to go by in order to operate in the United States. But they're still not great. And especially back then, essentially the way it worked was you are either going by what the international waters, like whatever, country is in control of where you are or closest, or the boats most often back then were governed by wherever they were like their port was, like where they were out of. So in this one, I believe it was like the Caribbean. So this Rhapsody of the Seas is not an American boat. It had a dock in Florida, but it was not governed by American law. And I think a lot, and that's the case with like a lot of these boats, and people don't know that. So they get on thinking that they're like safe and protected. You're not. You're super, super not. And we're going to talk
Yeah.
about exactly what can happen to you when you're on one of these boats, or what might happen, or speculate, I guess. So Amy gets on the boat and they're having a good time. They are partying, drinking, going out to dinner. She's taking photos with her family. So there's people on the boat who are like there to like snap photos and then they post them and you can like go grab them and like take them home or whatever, take them back to your cabin. So she goes and she gets these photos with her family. There's a bunch of pictures of her and her family goes to collect the photos and there's none of the photos of Amy. And the guy is like, "Oh, that's so weird. Like, I swear I developed them. I don't know what happened." And he develops them again and gives them to her. But that's really fucking weird that all the pictures of her are like not there, right?
Yeah.
All the other pictures from the night that the photos were taken are there. Her pictures are not there. And that's like the first night of on the boat.
Okay.
Now, another thing that happened on like the first or second night that she was there was one of the waiters at one of the restaurants was kind of like expressing interest in her in like a kind of creepy way to where she was telling her family like these dudes are creepy, like I'm not really into this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just him. A lot of the crew members were kind of like that. And it was making her really uncomfortable and it was making her family kind of uncomfortable. But they were just kind of like, whatever. Again, they had this, feeling that they were safe, that they were protected. So even though they were like, ooh, these guys are gross, they were like, ultimately, that's kind of where it starts and ends, right? Like, what's
Yeah.
going to happen? They had this sort of like false sense of security. So they're there a few days. This happens pretty fucking quick. Like this is only a week-long trip where they're
Right.
gonna go to Curacao and they're gonna like come back. I think there was a stop in Barbados and then they end up back in Florida. So we're on night 3, the evening of March 23rd, 1998. And Amy and her brother Brad decide to go dancing at a Mardi Gras style nightclub party on the ship, and they're drinking alcohol, they're hanging out. Now the ship had docked, I forget where exactly, but they picked up this band, and with this band came a bunch of like friends. Like the band just like brought people with them. It was a
Yeah.
Caribbean island. And people later were like, yeah, that was really weird that these guys just like came on to the boat and were like chilling. Like basically like they fucking, lived like they had every right to be there kind of.
Yeah.
But again, false sense of security. They're out in the ocean. They're having a good time. So Amy goes to this place, to this nightclub, and she's dancing. The band is called Blue Orchid. And the band has a bass player named Alistair Douglas, who also went by Yellow. And he and Amy hit it off that night. They were drinking and partying until at least 1 a.m. Now, according to him, the last time he saw her was 1 a.m. And we're going to put a pin in
Okay.
that. Now Brad ends up back at the room around 3 a.m. and Amy comes in shortly after. She tells her brother, like they sit out on the deck of their room and they're talking, and he's like, I'm gonna go to bed, and she's like, I'm gonna stay out here for a little while. Now it's been speculated maybe she had had a little too much to drink, so she was trying to like get some fresh air, code for like trying not to puke. She was
Right.
a smoker. She had her cigarettes out there, so maybe she just wanted to like have a smoke, kind of hang out, whatever. But the deck was attached to like her parents' room. Like in fact, I think they were all sharing like a big room. So around 5:30 a.m., her dad woke up and saw her on like the outside couch.
Okay.
He saw her feet. He could tell she was basically asleep at 5:30. Or if she wasn't asleep, she was laying down and she was not moving. So he falls back asleep, and about a half an hour later, he wakes up again. And this time, Amy's not there. Now, her shoes are
Okay.
inside the room. So she didn't take any of her. So she had like, I think it was something like 7 pairs of shoes she brought with her,
Okay.
which like, I feel that. Like, that's something I would 100%
Yeah,
do.
for sure.
I have like 75 pairs of shoes. Like, you want to get use out of all the shoes that you buy. So none of her
Yeah.
shoes, they later determined, were taken with her, right? Her cigarettes and her lighter were gone. Her wallet was still there. Her passport, everything else was still there. And the sliding glass door out to the balcony was open about like 15 inches or so. So just enough for her to kind of like open it quietly, sneak through, and potentially leave the room, which is what her parents are sure happened. So her dad gets up. It's been a half an hour, and he goes up onto the deck, like the boat's deck, looking for Amy, and he can't find her. And he's looking everywhere. And he's immediately starting to panic, which I find really interesting and I think is a very good sign of like parents' intuition, you know?
Yeah.
That he's like so immediately can sense something is off because she doesn't have her shoes. She doesn't have her wallet. She doesn't have her ID. She doesn't have her passport. She doesn't have. So he starts looking. He asks the captain. He asks everybody he can find. Nobody has seen her. Nobody knows where she is. About a half an hour later, he's still looking for her. He can't find her. See, so I'm just, rather than turning this into a big long story, I'm kind of just going to bullet point the
Yeah.
things that happen.
The major
He
events.
asks, yeah, he asks the captain to make an announcement that she's missing. The captain refuses. He asks the captain, please don't dock in Curacao. Please don't do that. Please stay. like in the water until we find her.
Yeah.
And the captain refuses. The
Oh my
captain
God.
refuses once again. And another hour or so goes by. They are docked and people are getting off the boat. And finally, some of the crew members agree not to say that she is missing, but to ask her to come to her family. Basically saying, like, Amy, Bradley, please go to your cabin because they don't want to alert the other
What about like keep
passengers. They
your
don't want to
eyes
scare
out
them.
for a woman with meeting this description would have been great. Like would have
Oh
been
yeah,
really
but
helpful.
here's what we learn about another reason I will never go on a cruise ship, and fuck Royal Caribbean, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like their catchy ass song jingle is not gonna get me. You know that one? You know
No.
the one.
No.
Royal Caribbean. Dude, I've
I've
known that
never
my
heard
whole
this in my
fucking life.
life.
Oh my god, I'm so glad you haven't. Fuck them.
Okay.
I
Okay.
remember those commercials from like the early 90s.
Okay.
Um Anyway, their whole thing, start to finish, is to cover their ass.
Yeah.
They don't fucking care. Once again, not governed by United States law. All they want to do is make sure they don't get in trouble and they don't upset their passengers. So the family is freaking out. They're like, how could she get off the boat? She doesn't have her passport. The crew and the captain agree to do like an extensive search of the boat. They come back and say, we don't know where she is. We can't find her. They're like, how the fuck would she get off if she didn't have her stuff? But clearly she's not on
Yeah.
the boat. So her family is like, what is going on? So the family's like, can you please not take off in like 8 hours or whatever to go to Barbados because we can't find our daughter. Once again, the captain's like, hey, family, get fucked. We don't care that your loved one went missing from our fucking boat. We're
Yeah.
going to go on. You want to stay here and look for her? Or do you want to come with us? So the family decides, I think one of them stays on the, no, I think they all stay in Curacao and they
Okay.
start looking for, they start going to local bars, local hotels, local restaurants. They start looking all over the beach. They get local law enforcement involved. They try to call the FBI. They try to get the US consulate involved. It takes a very long time. Eventually, the FBI does get involved, but
Okay.
initially, it's just the Caribbean police, and they're just kind
Yeah.
of like, we don't know how to help you, you know? So eventually, days and days later, the FBI does get involved and they have the family meet them in Barbados. And um which I think is where the boat must be gone at this point. But in any case, the family goes to Barbados. They meet with the FBI. The FBI goes to the Rhapsody of the Seas. They start interviewing people. So much weird shit happens. So one guy calls, it's not the captain, it's like the security guard on the boat, asks him for the original copies of all of the tapes from the boat that day. And the guy won't give them to him. And the guy's like, well, the FBI wants them. And the guy who has the tapes is like, if the FBI wants them, they can come get them from me. I'm not giving you my master tapes. So the guy that was asking him to do this turned out to be like the lawyer for Royal Caribbean.
Oh
He
my
was basically
God.
trying to get the tapes from the boat to destroy them. Okay. So we don't find
Wow.
this out until, yeah, we don't find this out until much later. And in fact, the tapes from the night before and the night of her disappearance, because technically she disappeared the morning of March 24th. So the
Yeah.
tapes surrounding those events, like that night, they're not released for quite a while. There's quite a while that she's not, that they don't release anything or tell the public anything,
That's
right?
insane.
Yeah. So the the Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard did conduct a 4-day search that ended March 27th, looking in the water. The family did not believe that. They do not believe this to this day. But one of the prevailing theories is that Amy fell overboard off of her balcony. And
Oh
right
my
from the
God.
beginning, Royal Caribbean is like, this is what happened. We're going to find, we got to search the water for her. The family is like, we were super close to shore. She's a very strong swimmer. Like, there's no way that she either wouldn't survive or her body wouldn't have washed up. Like, there's no way
Yeah.
that this is what happened. So, but, they still search the waters. They search for bodies, any sign of her clothing, anything, that would match her. Meanwhile, the FBI is treating this as a missing persons case. And here are some of the things that the FBI finds. Eventually, they released the tapes from the night before, and there are videos of Amy and Yellow dancing in the nightclub, grinding up on each other, until at least 1 o'clock in the morning, being very, very like cuddly and close and like, a lot more going on between them than Yellow initially said. They
Right.
also find out that about an hour into Amy being missing, Yellow came up to her brother Brad and was like, "I'm sorry to hear that your sister's missing." However,
Too early.
the only people too early. The only people who knew this at the time were the family and the captain and some of the crew.
Okay.
Now, the crew has come back. The captain and the crew have come back later and been like, he was a member of the crew. He's like the ship's band.
Right.
So he would have known this, but the family is like, how the fuck would he have known this when we're just walking by him in a hallway when we literally like just told the captain?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of back and forth on whether or not that was an appropriate thing for him to say.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously what we're talking about here is a possible abduction
Yes.
and possible trafficking kind of situation, right?
Yes. Yes.
So things that support this. On the morning of the disappearance, two passengers told Amy's father, Ron, that they saw a woman matching Amy's description taking an elevator to the ship's deck with a cigarette and a lighter. Another witness, these witnesses also said that they saw Yellow in that same elevator with her. And about 10 minutes later, he came back down by himself. She was no longer with him.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Hmm. Yep. A cab driver later stated that he saw a woman matching Amy's description approaching, she approached him and asked him for a phone. Now, this was in Curacao. Authorities never confirmed this sighting. Okay.
Okay.
In
Okay.
1998, so now we're in August 1998, multiple months after she went missing. This is international news.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about it. A Canadian computer engineer said that he saw Amy walking on the beach in Curacao with two men. He said that she had all of the tattoos that Amy had. So Amy had this weird little like tattoo on her ankle. She had, this is such a 90s thing, the Tasmanian devil like spinning a basketball on his
Oh,
finger.
wow. So 90s. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And then she had, what was her other tattoo around her belly? She had one more tattoo. What was it? Damn it. There was one around her belly and I didn't write it down because I'm an idiot. I think it was something like very 90s, like something kind of like, I think it was like a scorpion or something like
Okay.
circling her belly.
Okay.
So I'm gonna look it up because now I feel stupid that I didn't write it down. But anyway, very, very 90s tattoos.
Yes.
And this guy is like, I saw her walking on the beach and she looked really distraught, right?
Hmm.
And so he goes to the police with this, and the police are like, holy shit, whatever. So they start kind of looking into it, but they never find they never find anything to kind of support that. That's another kind of sighting that was just possible but never confirmed.
Okay.
In January 1999, a US Navy petty officer came forward and he said that he saw her in 1998 but was scared of getting in trouble for visiting a brothel in Curacao,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
So rather than, get in trouble, he didn't say anything. But then he saw her on like a local news show, like missing, and he came forward and said that he saw her in a brothel. She told him her name was Amy Bradley and she begged him to help her.
Oh my God.
And not only did he not help her, but he took a really long time to tell her. When police finally went to the brothel where he said he saw Amy, they found it had been burned to the ground, which apparently is like a really common thing out there.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Sure.
Now, the final potential sighting of Amy came in March 2005 when a witness named Judy Maurer claimed to have seen her in a department store restroom in Barbados. She claimed a woman entered the restroom accompanied by three men who threatened her. They said something like, the deal's going down today, and if you don't listen and you mess it up, like, you're going to be sorry. She said the men then left the restroom and left Amy alone in it with this woman, and Amy told her, "My name is Amy Lynn Bradley. Please help me." And the woman was like, "Why don't you just leave?" And she's like, "You don't understand. Like, I can't leave." She said the men then burst back into the bathroom. The witness, Judy here, ran out afraid, and that was it. There was another sighting of her in San Francisco at one point. Like there were quite a
Okay.
few sightings of her where people are like, we see her, we recognize the tattoos, yada, yada, yada. Now, there's a couple more things that are kind of freaky here, but I'm going to take a quick moment to talk about um, a man named Frank Jones. So, in
Okay.
the fall of 1999, Amy's parents received an email from a Navy SEAL soldier named Frank Jones. He told the family he was former special ops and he had a team of experienced soldiers who might be able to rescue Amy. He said his team had seen Amy being held by heavily armed Colombian personnel in a housing complex surrounded by barbed wire. Now, this was in Curacao. This stemmed from another sighting in 1999 where a woman who lived in that area came forward and said that she saw Amy regularly going to a local market and that she was being held in this kind of compound.
Okay.
So somehow Frank Jones found out about this, you know, and confirmed it, reached out to them, said, yes, it's her. We see her. So the family is completely like, oh my God, they know where Amy is.
Yeah.
He's like, we can't take her out yet. It's too dangerous. So months and months and months go by. They are paying him for the surveillance, and he has like a team of ops agents, and they're watching the house. They're watching Amy. This is super fucking exciting for the family. They're just like, trusting that he's gonna, rescue her. They have the National Missing Children's Organization give him almost $200,000. The Bradleys gave him like almost $25,000. So they were getting like funds for this. So he and his
Okay.
special ops people, he's like, I need the final payment. It's the $100,000. And the Bradleys are like, okay, we just need proof. We need like a picture. So he takes a picture of her with this long blonde haired man who was holding her hostage. And her back is to them, but it's great because you can see her Tasmanian devil tattoo because it's on the back shoulder, and you can see the tattoo on her leg. So her family is like, "Oh my God, we're like moments away from getting our
Yeah.
daughter." They give him the final payment, and he goes out to Curacao. Very shortly thereafter, a man who was a legitimate like rescue ops guy who was working for Frank Jones reached out to the family and said, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize what was going on. I'd never seen Amy one time in this
Yeah.
complex. We are not rescuing her. We have no idea where she is.
Terrible.
Can you imagine somebody doing that
So
to this
fucked up.
family?
Yeah.
Unfucking believable.
Yeah.
So he was given, I believe, 5 years in prison. He had to pay all of the money back. He was never a special ops officer. Like he's just a piece of shit.
Wow.
So
Okay.
really fucking bad. So there have been jawbones washed up. She went missing like outside of Aruba, right where like Natalie Holloway went missing. And in
Oh
fact, the
wow.
weirdest thing, the server, one of the things that he said to her, like the waiter, he's like, I want to take you to this bar, such and such. I forget the name of the bar, but it's the last bar that Natalie Holloway was seen in before she disappeared.
Mm,
So fucking creepy. So anyway, also one other thing that happened with the family is they were sent an anonymous email that linked to like a sex site, like a trafficking site that like sold, women in for sex or whatever.
yeah.
And one of the photos that they sent was of a woman named Jazz. Now this woman was for sale on this website, and if you look at her, it looks so much like Amy. It is unfucking
Yeah.
real.
It really
She looks
does.
older, she looks thinner, she looks scared,
Like she's
but it's
been through
Amy.
some
Like,
shit, essentially.
yes, even in the
Yeah.
short amount of time. Now, they took this photo. There's two photos from the website. They took both of these and multiple photos of Amy, the family, to a man who like matches he does like facial recognition,
Yeah.
like matching, photos. And he said he's almost certain. He's like as certain as he can be that the woman in the photo is Amy Bradley.
Yeah, and if you go on the Google image search, you can pretty quickly find it. Like I think something from this guy or someone similar, like breaking down the
Mhm.
eye shape and the brow shape, and it's like kind of
Mhm.
doing side by sides, and it's
The
like,
ear
yeah,
shape is
yeah,
like a really big indicator.
mm-hmm,
And the most fucked up thing though is in both of these photos, nowhere that she would have a tattoo is visible, which is so
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah,
But I think it's also intentional.
yes,
So these photos, carefully hide any part of her that might show something that would definitively identify her.
Mhm.
She looks very different than she did when she went missing. She was 5'7", 120 pounds when she went missing with short brown hair. And in these photos, she has long, like teased, very like 80s style hair. And she looks very gaunt, but
Mhm.
it very much looks like her.
Yeah.
So that's all of the kind of stuff that leads into the theory that Amy was taken off of the boat and trafficked. And what her family believes, and what a lot of people believe, is that the photos were stolen of her to show to people to decide if they wanted to traffic her. When they
Mm.
decided they wanted to take her and traffic her, they had Yellow, kind of hit on her and get her interested, gain her trust. She left the room early in the morning to go meet him for like coffee or whatever. And then he drugged her, put her in like a laundry bag or something else to get her off the island, and smuggled her out while she was unconscious. Now, those two girls that saw her in the elevator with Yellow also said that they saw Yellow bring her a cup of dark liquid, either coffee or a soda or something that morning. So there is that eyewitness account of that happening, right?
Yeah.
So that's one theory. This is the theory the family believes.
Yeah.
And the family has spent money, time, all of their lives since this happened searching for Amy. The FBI, as of 2018, put out yet another video, yet another call to action for people to help find her, and has her listed as a missing person. So the FBI is, from what we can tell, believes this theory that she was trafficked,
Right.
which I think is very significant that that is what they believe. Now, on the other side, the incidence of human trafficking where Americans are trafficked into other countries is very, very, very infrequent. So infrequent that I
Hmm.
could not find any cases of it.
Interesting.
I could find this case for Amy Bradley and a couple of other cruise ship related cases where
Mhm.
we don't know what happened and the family believes that they were trafficked. There is literally no other evidence of humans being trafficked or kidnapped to be trafficked in other countries that I can find.
Like from
So
Americans, you mean?
yeah, Americans, what did I say?
Just humans.
Oh, humans, yes. I meant yeah, Americans. Oh God. Anyway, Americans being trafficked. Now, there's between 15 and 18,000 people trafficked in the United States every year,
Right.
mostly from third world countries, which is fucking horrifying.
Right.
But the flip
Immigrants and
side, yeah. But the flip side, and even children, like American children
yeah.
within the United States. But
Yes.
the flip side of this happening to Americans outside of America is very, very rare. Not to say it doesn't happen, but to say it not enough. I couldn't really find any. So
Infrequently.
a
Yeah.
lot of very infrequent. So a lot of people online are saying she got drunk, she fell overboard.
Okay.
There's no way that people are going to smuggle this white, woman who was there with her family. There's no reason they're going to take this much of a risk to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would they do that when there are people all over that they can traffic? Very unfortunately, people way more easy to victimize, right? Um, and it's hard to say because her family's like, well, she would have survived, and they're like, listen, there are people who are like Olympic swimmers. If they fell 200 feet off of a balcony in a boat and hit the water, that's like hitting concrete. It was dark outside and she was drunk.
Yeah.
Like, even if she survived the impact, she likely wouldn't have been able to swim to shore in the dark when she was still like a mile or more offshore. Like, it's not very plausible. Now, the fact that her body never washed up is definitely something to say that she didn't go overboard, but the railings on these decks were pretty low.
Hmm.
Maybe the reason that her cigarettes and lighter were missing is she dropped them over the side, reached over to try to get them, and fell off. Now, some of the people who agree with this say things like she could have hit her head on the way down and been knocked unconscious when she hit the water and drowned. My thing is, if she hit her head on the way down, there'd be evidence of her hitting her head. Because people were like, maybe she like bounced off a bunch of the balconies. I'm like, there would be blood, there would be hair, there would be something, people would have heard it. So to me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But it is fair to argue that maybe that's what happened. And after the investigation started and became very big, all of these people that came forward just wanted to be in the news, just
Yeah.
wanted to be the hero, just wanted to be
And
helpful.
witnesses are
And when
often
you
mistaken. Like,
they are often mistaken. And I haven't seen interviews with all of the people who came forward, but the ones who did, they seem the type. I hate to say it, but they seem the type
yeah,
who just want to
yeah.
like be on TV. And the woman who said she was being held in that compound, her son later came forward and said she was doing it for the reward money, and she was paid 8,000 American dollars
Oh
for
my
that
gosh.
information.
Yeah.
So the flip side of all of this is a very simple answer, that she fell overboard and died that night, and they just never found her body. It doesn't really make sense then when you see these photos, except that we all have doppelgangers out there, right?
Hmm.
Like, so I don't know. I don't know. I know that I just talked for a really long time, so I have to stop. This case drives me insane, but I'm a little bit closer to being of the belief that maybe she just fell overboard. There's
Yeah.
a lot of suspicious shit that went down, but like the idea, it doesn't make sense
No,
that
I
these
think she was
men would,
trafficked. Like, the picture to me feels really definitive. Like, and also the even regardless of the witness statements and like the way that that guy like clearly targeted her in some way. Like, I don't
and
know.
yeah, totally. The
Yeah.
photos, yellow, like the
Yeah.
witnesses. And here's the other thing. If she was trafficked, I guarantee you the reason there were no sightings from her after 2005 is because her traffickers saw how famous the case
Yeah.
was and that there were sightings of her, and they got rid of her. And
Yeah.
I hate to fucking say that, and it
Well,
breaks my fucking heart
even if that's not
because
the reason, it's not a world where you survive very long. Like, there, there's drugs, there's like people attacking you. Like, it's really frightening. Like,
yeah, you're not like they're not going to traffic her for,
yeah.
25 years,
And it's true. It's like it's maybe infrequent, but I think when people are trafficked, like they just fucking disappear. Like, that's it.
They
Like,
do.
yeah.
They do. And I believe they're mostly murdered by their traffickers once
Yeah.
they're of no more value or too much risk or
Yeah.
whatever. Or something bad happens to them with a quote unquote client and they just cover it up because they're worthless. I do find it interesting, the idea though, that, to explore kind of the question, why would they take her specifically? Why would they take somebody who was going to be so missed, who was
Right.
going to be in the news? Um, but really, I guess it just muddied the waters for me more. Like, I truly don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
I just wish that they would find something. Anything. Fucking anything.
Yeah.
She just disappeared without a fucking trace.
Wow.
So, drives me nuts. Yeah. That's it.
Oh my God. It's so
It's bleak.
heartbreaking for her family to like think that she is trafficked too and potentially still out there and like going through such a hard life and like suffering. That's like really hard to live with that like thought.
I would have fucking killed that guy. I think I would have tracked him down and killed him with my bare hands if
Yeah.
I had somebody leading me on for like 6 months, like giving me updates
Ugh.
about my missing child who was
Yeah.
actually nowhere to be found and it was all a
It's
fucking lie.
insane.
Like, to
Yeah.
me, that's the worst part. Besides her being missing, that is the absolute most insane part of this story. That he
It
took
is.
such crazy advantage of that family.
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
is.
also, I didn't mention this, but the guy who came forward and said it was fake, he was like, yeah, we got fake tattoos made that match her tattoos because you guys gave us photos of them
Oh
to
my
like help
God.
identify her.
That's
And
so
we went and got
elaborate.
like fake tattoos made and put them on like a woman and posed.
That's
Yeah,
so
I
elaborate.
forgot that. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my.
fucking crazy. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Wow. And there's another like cruise ship disappearance. I forget that her name. A woman who's like super super similar. Rebecca
Yes. Yeah,
Rebecca
I forget.
Rebecca Corium.
Yes, I was looking her up when I
Really
was reading
similar.
about this. And that was kind of where I started reading about how people are like, these people are not being trafficked. They fucking fell, or they
Hmm.
got pushed. So, real interesting. But I really hope her family finds peace. I really fucking hope they find her. It is any certain way. They did declare her dead in like legally dead in 2010. So at this point, it's just like, I want some closure for her family before her parents die.
Yeah. That's so
Like, it's
hard.
so fucking sad. It really is.
All right.
Ugh. All right, what's
Well,
yours?
I'm going to do the most mysterious case I have. I actually will admit I kind of actually agonized for an exceedingly long period of time over which I would do because picking only two is hard. I'm
It
obsessed
is, I
with all these
know.
cases, but I kind of have working theories for a lot of them, and I picked this case,
Mhm.
that of Brian Shaffer, because I
Oh,
fucking don't. And I
yeah.
find it to be very mysterious no matter how many podcasts I've listened to or things I've read. I'm like, I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Mm. It
Uh,
there are no answers. I'm just
nope,
gonna tell everybody right now,
nope,
there's no answers to this.
zero.
Mine, at least there's some solid theories, a few fucking leads. It's all
Yeah.
muddy and
I mean,
confusing, but
here
there's
we can
something.
theorize.
That's all
Here
we
you
can
can
do though. It's baseless.
here you can theorize, but there's nothing to back up any of your theories. Um,
Exactly. It's completely baseless.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Tell
So
us.
this happened in 2006 in Columbus, Ohio. Brian Shaffer was a 27-year-old medical student in his second year at Ohio State University. He was originally from Columbus, kind of the suburbs. He got his bachelor's in microbiology from OSU, or Ohio State University. And then basically had just started graduate school for medicine there in 2004. So he's on his way to be a doctor.
Hmm.
It may or may not matter, but some of his friends will later say that he was kind of like doing medicine to please his parents, but he basically wasn't like super 100% passionate about it. So he was kind of like doing it because it's like a thing to do. Um,
But he also wasn't like upset about it. He wasn't
no,
like, "Oh, I hate this. Oh, poor me." I'm like, because I feel
no,
like a lot of people start to kind of turn that into like a movie plot where it's like, "Oh,
no,
my,
it wasn't so
you know."
dramatic. He was just sort of like
No.
meh about it.
He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was
But
like, "Okay, I'll do this. I don't really care."
yeah. And
Yeah.
people also said that he was kind of more bohemian than his like doctor, path would have you think. He really wanted to start a
Mhm.
band. He loved like Jimmy Buffett, like Margaritaville, like vibes. Like that's kind of his thing.
R.I.P.
He also loved Pearl Jam so much that he had a Pearl Jam stickman tattoo.
Oh my goodness. So
Yes.
he's also much like Amy, he is a man of his time.
Very
She
much
was a
of his
woman of her
time.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, he's not all business, Brian.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he had just met earlier this year, 2006, his girlfriend, fellow medical student Alexis Wagoner. Things were apparently going so well with the couple that many thought that including Alexis, that he may propose already, only a few months into dating, which kind of like, I kind of read that 3 times, like, yeesh, okay.
Yeah.
But he might during an upcoming trip the two had planned to Miami for spring break. So that will be scheduled for a few days after this happens.
So
Um,
he's got stuff he's looking
oh
forward
yeah.
to. Yeah.
A few weeks leading up to this date, however, Brian's mom actually died from a rare form of blood cancer.
Oof.
They had been very close, and obviously his friends and family report that this was really hard for him. At one point, while he's grieving, he tells Alexis that they should run away together. And one other time, he says that she should just find someone else because he's got like too much to deal with, or like kind of like a thing you say when you're not serious, but just like, wow, wouldn't it be easier for you if you didn't have to deal with a grieving person, right?
Right. Like we haven't
Um,
even known each other that long and
yeah,
I'm like really in the shit right now.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But it wasn't like I want to break up. It was like maybe it would be easier for you to not have to deal with me.
Right. Right. It was absolutely not
Yeah.
like, yeah. Yep.
On Friday, March 31st, here's our day. Brian had a nice fancy dinner with his dad to celebrate like the end of the quarter or semester, whatever it was. And his dad, Randy, observed that Brian seemed pretty tired from cramming for exams, finishing up his classes. He kind of quietly disapproved that Brian was going to go out drinking with his friend that night, but doesn't say anything. He's just like, ugh, okay. Do what you're going to
So
do.
his dad is a little pushy, to be fair, because
Mm-hmm.
like you shouldn't, like, you gotta let your kid relax a little
Yeah.
bit. You know what I
He
mean?
quietly
Like,
disapproved to himself.
right. I mean, he didn't say anything, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I still think that the fact that that's like his mom just died.
Yeah.
He's working his ass off. Like, his dad shouldn't be disapproving at all, in my opinion.
No.
So,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's also like it's impressive given what he just went through that he did finish out a semester or a quarter very well.
mhm.
Because a lot of folks going through that kind of loss might like take a leave of absence or something. So it's like pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Um,
it really is. Like, he's very strong-willed,
yeah.
especially if it's something he doesn't particularly care about.
Yeah, no, he kept going and finished it out. So after dinner, Brian goes out with his friend William, or Clint, as he's called, Florence. And
Mhm.
he and Clint begin the night at the Ugly Tuna Saloona.
Good
um,
God.
yeah, which really has the vibe of a place I used to go to in Santa Barbara called Baja Sharkies. It's kind of like the exact vibe. Very broy, very collegey, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's like joke like fish, are on the wall. You know what I mean? Like the fake fish. Um,
Yeah, it's just very to me, it feels like just very half-assed, very college bro,
yes,
just
college
very,
bro.
like,
Hmm.
nobody really cares enough. The people there don't really have a lot of
No,
personality, so they don't really give a shit what it
I
looks like.
guarantee you the drinks were like half water. Like
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yep.
It's not artisanal craft cocktails here at the Ugly Tuna Saloona. They're
Yeah.
not good. So from there, they go bar hopping, I think, to two other places. And this is kind of like described as a crawl, although it's a pretty short crawl. Crawls can be like 17 bars.
Mhm.
So this is a pretty short crawl where they're doing a shot in each of the bars. But again, it's only like 3 or 4 bars. Um,
Right.
in the Crosscutter University District were called Students Party. And you can imagine because school went out, there's lots and lots and lots of people from the college all partying.
Right. So it's like another situation, like so many, where the place is just crawling with people and then like
Hmm.
tragedy strikes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
About 10 p.m., he talked to his girlfriend Alexis on the phone, and they have a brief but normal call. He talks about their trip and how excited he is. He says he loves her when he hangs up. Um, he also later that night will leave a voicemail for her. And I'll be real,
Mhm.
he sounds a little bit drunk, not like crazy drunk, but just like a little happy, if you will,
Tipsy.
a little happy.
Yeah. Mhm.
And but not unreasonable. He says
Right.
basically that he's telling all his friends about her, and like he can't stop talking about her. He says you're the most amazing woman and I love you, and he hangs up. It's kind of like being
Oh.
a happy drunk moment.
Yeah, which is very sweet too. It's like a really nice
Yeah.
thing to say.
Hmm. Around midnight, they met up with a friend of Clint's named Meredith, and she drove them
Mhm.
back to Ugly Tuna Saloona to apparently finish like a full circle moment to finish the night out where they started. Um, and they enter around 1:15 a.m.
Okay.
Surveillance footage captures Brian and his two friends riding the escalator up to the bar. It's on the second floor. And this is very important fucking footage. Around 1:55 a.m. So that we're going to do a lot of close timestamps here. So
Okay.
around 1:55 a.m., Brian and Clint were seen outside talking to two girls.
Okay.
Brian was allegedly being flirtatious with one of these girls, although of course he has a girlfriend, so we're all like tisk tisking, right?
Mhm.
He apparently even got one of the girls' numbers, and one of these women was later
Mm.
interviewed on a podcast, and she says that he kissed her neck at some point during their exchange. So
Hmm.
obviously we don't love this, but he was pretty drunk. Um,
Right.
but also I want to note this because if he did this, was this something that potentially got him in trouble? Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. But none of
Right.
these girls were single. They didn't have boyfriends who were there, but like who
Mhm.
knows? Who knows why someone might want to hurt him.
Right. Right, right, right.
Just before 2 a.m., Brian was seen briefly again on the surveillance footage near the top of the escalator, but he does not go down.
Okay.
The bar closes at 2 a.m., and so like a fucking minute after this camera catches him for the final time, he's gone. And just after closing time, the lights went on. He's fucking gone. His friends call him, and his phone is going straight to voicemail already.
So his phone is gone,
Yep.
he is gone.
Yep.
That's fucking it.
They search the bar, they look in the bathroom, and they don't find him on the fucking premises. So they think at first he just must have gone home by himself or found some other way home, and they just leave and they're not that bothered.
Yeah, they're like, whatever, he'll find his way home.
Yeah.
Very, very standard. Very, very
Standard
standard.
college kid behavior.
Absolutely.
So later that day, they don't hear from him. The friends, the girlfriend, and they all grow concerned. Dad Randy is, of course, also alarmed, as no one can get a hold of him. And when he misses his flight for his trip on Monday, the following Monday, they're like, okay. And they all report him. He's reported missing.
Right.
There are comprehensive searches of the bar, the area, a nearby river, a nearby landfill, like really within days. Cadaver
Mhm.
dogs also searched the bar and did not alert on a single fucking thing.
Not one thing.
Nope. Here's a random spooky clue. His girlfriend, and just from here on, everything I say is going to be speculation because that's it. There's no fucking evidence of what happened to Brian. He just
He never left
literally
the bar, but he's not
walks
there.
off the face of the earth. Yeah, there is
But
no
he never
footage.
left the bar.
There's no footage of him leaving the bar, and every exit from this place, which I'll talk about with very few exceptions, is filmed, and
Yeah.
he is not on the fucking footage. Okay. So his girlfriend said that she repeatedly called his phone, like daily, basically over the coming weeks, and it always went to voicemail, just as it did, like right away.
Right.
And I think, by the way, it's wild that it went to voicemail instantly. Like they lost track. They
Immediately.
lost track of him, and like a minute later, voicemail.
Yeah.
Which means, did it
That's
run out
so
of
fucking
battery?
wild.
Was it turned off? Did he lose signal? Like, was it broken? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
But randomly one night in September, so this happened at the end of March, or early April. But one night in September, according to Alexis, the phone rang instead of going
What?
straight to voicemail. Yes. And there's actually record of this because the phone company picked up a ping from it. And this ping hit a cell tower 14 miles from Columbus in a
Oh my
nearby
god, dude,
town.
I didn't know this.
Yes.
I did not know that.
And it's unclear why or how, or the cell phone company claims it could have been a glitch, but many people disagree. And reportedly, it didn't just ring once for Alexis, but multiple times because his dad and other people, when they heard this, started calling as well, hoping to get through to someone.
Anybody, yeah.
So there was like one fluke moment in time where it rang.
Holy fucking shit, dude! I did not know that.
Yes. So
And they found where it pinged to, but they
yes.
just still couldn't find anything.
Yep. So the friends are obviously called into suspicion here. Notably, Clint, people often discuss how Clint lawyered up fairly quickly. He does not cooperate with the investigation. He refused to take a polygraph, unlike everyone else who was around him that night. They did, but not Clint. Brian's dad was also, though, like a bit accusatory to him right away and was kind of saying, like, you know more than you're letting on. So he could have just, like, been easily scared off and, like, freaked out.
Which, like, I get it. Like, but also dad sounds a little much.
He's intense. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's also been folks that talked about Brian and Clint getting into arguments in the past, having kind of like a friendship with a lot of tumult, you could say.
Okay.
And there were reports, which I didn't know about, that they actually had argued at the Ugly Tuna. So, like, within the last hour before Brian was missing. And so I don't necessarily think that means Clint had anything to do with it, but it could very well explain Brian ditching his friends abruptly, right? Like, if he's irritated at Clint, he's just like, well, fuck you, and he just drunkenly walks away. Right? So I think at least if nothing else, it could explain that he's had it with Clint.
Right.
Just nowhere to put this other than I'll just say that 2 years after Brian disappeared, his dad was killed by a tree in a windstorm.
Which, like, what the fuck? This whole family got taken out in the span of, like, 2 years.
A Shaffer curse, yeah. And also, Brian's poor brother, Derek, was like, okay, I guess my entire family's dead within 2 years. Like, that poor guy.
That's fucked up. That's horrible.
So let's talk about all the theories, because like I said, there's no more evidence. That's it.
That's it, yeah.
Here's the theories. And I did a lot of looking on the Brian Shaffer Reddit. He has his own Reddit.
Amy Bradley does too, and that's where I got convinced that she might have fallen overboard.
Yeah, so I got some. I have some solid theories thanks to the Reddit people, but again, nothing to back them up.
Right.
So one common theory you'll hear people talk about is, did he just run away? And did he do it abruptly, or was it planned? He was obviously going through a lot emotionally at this
Hmm.
time. Did he feel like, oppressed by his pressure to be a doctor and he wanted to go run away and be Jimmy Buffett? Like, that's kind of how people would describe it. Um,
Right.
he left behind his car, his bank cards. There's no use, nothing of
No
him is on the
activity.
map. Yeah, nothing.
Right.
So if he did, he really fucking started from a clean ass slate. Like, he didn't use a single thing at all.
Hmm.
There's no indications that he was preparing to make a great escape at all.
Right. Right. None at all. He was doing the opposite. He had all these plans and all these
Mm-hmm.
other things going on.
So I
Yeah.
don't really buy that. Like, I don't really buy that kind of line of thinking. People also,
I
of
don't
course,
really either.
speculate, if did he kill himself? And I'm like, okay, but then they would have found the body, probably, right?
Yeah, and also did he do it like in the bar? Like what the
Yeah,
fuck?
where did that
You
happen?
know?
Yeah.
Right, right.
So
Okay.
how did he get out of the fucking bar? There's also
Right.
speculation about this, but we have no evidence. There was two other exits that could have been, okay, well, I'll say one for sure that he could have left through, but it led through a construction site. So it was very much like, do not use this as a fucking exit, but you
Right.
technically could have left.
Right.
Um, it was a fire exit, and like I said, it would have said, "Don't fucking open me," an alarm will go off. However, one of the girls actually that he was talking to said that at least some people at the bar knew you could open the door and like go smoke out there or something, and the alarm was
Right.
not functioning.
Okay.
So could Brian have seen someone do that and thought, "Oh, that's like a normal way to go out"? You know,
Uh-huh.
it's possible. And it's also, you'll hear a lot of different takes on how crazy the construction was. Some people are like, it was an active construction site, there's no way he could have traversed it. And some people are like, it was drywalling, it was fine.
Yeah, like it really wasn't a big fucking deal.
Yeah, he could have walked through it. So that's the one way he could have gotten out and not been on camera.
Okay.
It's an urban legend somewhat that is very far-fetched, but I have to mention it. That perhaps he, while walking through this construction site, had some kind of accident because he was drunk, and then they like
Hmm.
sealed him in to cover it up, or they put him in the drywall, right?
The really
Which
annoying part is that there's not any like real footage of like what the construction site looked like.
no,
So there's no way to really know. Did they ever do like
evaluate.
radar of like the concrete or anything, or were they just kind of like
I mean, here's the thing: the dog would have sniffed it if he was in
right.
still on that site. The dogs would have fucking alerted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there was also a stairwell that led to a ground floor service area. Basically, it was like an employees only kind of exit because it went
Hmm.
through the band and, like, I think kind of like a green room area. And there reportedly was a camera that showed people going down the pathway through that exit. And Brian was
Hmm.
not shown going that way. But it's kind of speculated that maybe he was just missed in a crowd. But I think at this point, fuck no, he wasn't.
No.
Um,
No.
People have looked over that CCTV footage like so fucking carefully.
Also,
Um,
he's 6'2". Like
yeah, he's a
he's
big
not a
dude.
small person.
No,
Yeah.
he's a big, kind of distinctive looking guy, for sure. So
Yeah.
even if we could say, okay, he left the construction through the construction site, even if we can just like
Hmm.
assume that he left, um, how? Why is there no CCTV footage or sightings of him afterwards? It's a crowded area in a university city where everyone's out and about. Not a single. There was tons of cameras capturing the streets around the Ugly Tuna
Right. It
Saloon.
wasn't just like there. It's like if he had
He
made
is
it past
gone.
one,
Yeah,
he would have to make it past a bunch more. A
there's
bunch more.
no footage of him walking down a street. Nothing.
Nothing.
People have speculated maybe he was abducted or in a bag, or and
Right.
taken out that way. But there's no one walking out also with a suspiciously large bag, of any kind.
Which also, like, again, a 6'2", like 165
Oh,
pound man.
yeah.
Like, they're not just gonna like be like doop doop doop, like sauntering out of there unnoticed.
And I
Like, it's
doubt that you
ridiculous.
could also like dismember or do enough violence to him that he would be smashable into a bag that fast. Like,
And again, cadaver dogs.
this happened fast. Yeah, exactly. I don't think anything violent happened to him on site.
No.
Because
No,
of the
I don't think
dogs.
so either. Right.
So, again, if we set aside completely the mystery of how he got out of the bar, which is still a fucking mystery, and we assume he did get out somehow, how, and we kind of put aside suicide or running away, how was he met with foul play? I think obviously, yeah, but fucking how? From whom? Right?
And where?
Yeah. So I have a theory-ish. So basically,
Okay.
accounts differ on how drunk he was leaving the bar. The interview was really informative with one of the girls, the girl he was flirting with, and she said he was, well, basically what I said earlier, happy, like tipsy, but not like
Yeah.
falling over, not like too drunk.
Not like
Um,
wasty. Yeah.
no, no. Um, so, and that was right at the end of the night when she's describing him. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he wasn't so drunk that he was like completely out of his fucking mind. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but he obviously he only lived 6 blocks or so away. So people think, could he have gotten in a fight or got mugged or got jumped as he starts to walk home? Um, so,
Okay.
and then someone puts his body in a dumpster, which would have absolutely made it so there's no evidence. Because as we know from Ying Zhang, who I covered for Patreon, like when you get thrown
Yeah.
out in a dumpster, you are gone. And also, people have tracked
Mm-hmm.
the trash, like taking out records, and found
Yeah.
that the dumpsters there were taken out before any searches took place, like right away.
Hmm.
So they could have taken his body away.
Yeah.
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 Um,
Fuck.
if he was abducted, like off the street, people have also speculated that he could have been a victim of the possibly fictional, possibly real smiley face killer, because
Smiley face
he
killer. Yeah.
does meet the MO, right, or of the victim profile, right, of like being a college age guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he was allegedly the smiley face killer, if you believe in it, active in that area at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think thanks to Reddit, my favorite idea is that he probably took a ride either as he was leaving or right after getting out, again, through a mysterious fucking exit. Um,
Right.
but he probably took a ride from a stranger or someone who he thought was trustworthy and was not. Because if he got
Mm.
into a car, that would explain that why he's
Why
not on
you
any
don't see him.
cameras outside
Mm-hmm.
and why he's not on any cameras on the streets walking, because again, I think if he went to like the almost a full walk home or a couple blocks, made it a couple blocks, he would have
Mm-hmm.
been on a camera.
Right.
So I
100%.
think he got in a car. That's like the best I can say. But
Okay. Yeah.
without knowing how he left the building at all, it honestly still feels like he disappeared into a fucking wormhole. Like,
Yeah, because it's like we don't even know that he got out of the bar.
yeah,
And like there are
yeah,
theories surrounding like maybe something happened to him in the bar,
yes.
right?
But like, it's so insane because like logic tells me, of course, he had to get out of the bar because there's no evidence of a crime there. But
Right.
then your brain starts going crazy. Like, did someone there kill him? Was there cover up? Was it an employee? You know.
Yeah.
But dogs can alert even if you cleaned. Dogs can still alert to
Right.
that.
They can still alert.
Um,
Yeah. The
yeah.
well-trained ones, yeah, and they all are, they're
So
not
I don't
using
know.
like shitty
It
dogs.
really, without
Right.
evidence of how he left through that construction exit, like it still feels like he just, like you said last week, melted in the floor. Like he's just gone.
Yeah, he did. Just
Aliens
like
came down and abducted him. Like, okay.
seriously.
Um,
So best theory, he went out the back the random way, got into a car,
yeah.
and somebody fucked with him.
Yeah.
That's what we're
And
thinking.
I think the other plausible sounding theory is that someone fucked with him as he was leaving or walking home and put him in a dumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
I mean, dumpsters, like I said,
Yeah.
will definitively like get rid of a person.
Yeah, it's real hard. If somebody gets dumped in the fucking
Yeah.
landfills, like that's it. You're
And they
not
searched
finding
a
them.
landfill, but like still, even with that, you still might not find them.
I wonder how cadaver dogs would do in a landfill. Like what that looks like. I
I
hate to think
mean,
about it, but I
their
do
poor
wonder.
noses. That's hard. Like,
Yeah, that's
that's a
fucked up. It's probably
challenge.
not very nice to do to them.
Yeah.
Oof.
So that's pretty much it. The case is still open. Technically, there's still things that come out periodically about it, but it's more just like the same info. Go on the Reddit. It's very active. People are actively
Mhm.
dissecting every inch of the surveillance footage still. People are
The whole
obsessed
fucking thing,
with
yeah.
absolutely every person who went to that bar that night. People are like analyzing their fucking shoes. People are just going wild. Like,
I love
um,
it. That's
there is
crazy. I
also
wish they could find something,
there
but
is a current image of Brian, age progressed, and he would now be 44. So it shows him
okay.
looking a little older. I
Mhm.
I mean, I hate to say it, I personally don't think he's alive. Um,
Yeah, I don't either.
but
I mean, at this point, like, they
that's
definitely what's weird is there have been, like, quite a few cases lately, especially of, like, people who went missing being found, like,
yeah.
after, like, multiple years. So it's not impossible, but I just don't feel like
There's
it's very
also like
likely.
zero sightings. There's no one saying like, "Oh, I saw a guy
Right.
that kind of looked like him." Like, there's like none.
Right. Right.
I think
Right.
I think he was met with foul play like pretty quick.
Immediately. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so too. And I think it's really unfortunate because, um, it's just I feel bad that people are, like, saying, "Oh, he ran away," and this and that. I feel like they're, like, you know,
No.
besmirching his memory in a way or something, and it's like he
Yeah.
probably was
Yeah.
murdered.
And also, like,
I hate to say it.
I think so too. I've seen 1,000 disappeared episodes where I leave the episode going, "Oh, they fucking ran away to start a new life, 100%." And you can always
Right.
like, if there's always a lot more lead up, a lot more clues to that they're like leaning that way, and there's a lot
Right.
more like there's always a little bit of prep, even if they're trying to not
Right.
like show it. There's always a little bit of prep.
There's always something.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
And also like I just think if he was going to disappear, it would not be from a bar in the middle of the night. Like,
Yeah, no, that's
you
not how
want
you're gonna
to
do that.
make your exit like on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock, like peacefully. You're not going to do
Right.
it like this.
Right. Right.
So
Okay. So I agree with you. I think he was probably picked up in a car after going out the back, or I agree with that
yeah,
theory, and
yeah.
murdered. But you don't agree with me that Amy Lynn Bradley potentially just fell overboard.
No, I think she was sex trafficked. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the idea that like American women aren't generally sex trafficked in other countries?
I think it's happened. I think there's not going to be accurate stats too because it's fucking like they just disappear forever. They don't always
Yeah.
come back and tell their story about it.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel. I feel like there's so much about that that's like back and forth and like all the weird sightings and like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, I think the most convincing thing I read on Reddit for Brian was that he was dumpstered. Because I'm like, that explains the zero
So
fucking
much.
evidence.
Yeah.
Absolutely at zero. Um,
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude.
It's fucked
That's
up.
fucked up. That really sucks.
Ditto.
I hope we find out someday. That almost makes me feel like somehow somebody could figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something could fucking happen. I don't know.
Yeah. I
I mean,
mean,
there's so many cases where people just like walk out into the night and they're never seen again, and it's like,
yeah.
well, that's because whoever killed them did a good job burying their body, and there wasn't
Yeah.
enough. It was the middle of the night, and like nobody was around to see what happened. It doesn't mean something didn't happen,
I think the
you
only
know.
way Brian's case will be solved is if it's something like with the Brittany Drexel case, where it's basically they get someone to confess, or like say, for example, confess in exchange for something, or like some kind of sentence relief or something, and they say, "Oh yeah, I killed him."
Right? Yeah.
That's it.
Oof. I don't know. I wonder if we'll ever find out.
Yeah,
Anyway, there they
there you
are.
go.
There's the
No,
first two
no
guys.
resolution for us. So
Ugh, leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
yes.
Also, in a callback to former episodes, there is a fucking mosquito in my room, just one,
Oh no.
and he keeps landing on me, and I keep like moving to like kick him off.
Have you gotten bitten? I hate that.
Not today. I really haven't been bitten very much this year. I feel like the
Me
mosquitoes have
neither.
really not been around.
They
Yeah, it's
backed
been
off.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now I see them, and there's going to be a heat wave this week, so I'm sure a bunch more are going to come
Oh,
around.
I hate it.
Stoked. Yeah, thanks. I
Okay.
hate it. Also, thanks for having like a fucking cold ass summer and then a hot ass October. Like
It's
that's
great.
absolutely wrong. That's the opposite of
Yeah.
what needs to be happening. Whatever. Anyway, All right, guys, there's part 1. Part 2 is coming out soon.
Mhm.
Please like, rate, review, share with your friends, family, colleagues, loved ones, anybody who won't judge you for listening to us. And if they do, you should cut them out of your life. Who needs people like that?
Yes,
Anyway,
definitely.
thanks, everybody. We'll be back with part 2. And until then,
Stay.
off our
Liz.
list. Ciao, bye.